Hey everyone, and welcome in here to the Powercat Postgame podcast. I am Carmody. With me is Brien Hanley, Big B, former Kansas State offensive lineman. We are live on YouTube, on Twitter. If you are watching this, it's because you probably, much like Big B and myself, almost suffered a heart attack. Kansas State survives. They beat Tulane 34-27. VJ Payne with a game-winning interception in the end zone against Darian Mensah. Big B, man. I was thinking after the game, what are we going to open the show with? And it's like, there's so many ways that this show can go. And if you're watching, please drop some comments, drop some questions. We love to see those feedback. We'll go and we'll put some comments up on the screen. We'll refer to them. But Big B, let's start off with this, man. What a game. Initial impressions.
Let's see. They won the football game. That's the first thing that I will say. They won the football game. But let's just be honest, man. It was a bad game for Kansas State. They got out-coached. They got outplayed. They were able to survive. They made enough plays. They got out-physical. They got out-athleted, if that's a word. It's just everything about this football game screamed, man, you're not as good as what you think. And again, but they won the game. That's the whole thing. They actually won. We can be sourpuss, and we'll talk about everything that went wrong, Cole. But at the end of the day, and I know a lot of people will say they got a call at the end of the game, which, I mean, it was offensive pass interference. They never call it. Don't get me wrong, but it absolutely was. But let's just be honest, man. K-State, they won, but I mean, I know the old saying is the better team didn't win. The better team that played on the football field did not win today.
Overall, I agree. I mean, you look at the first half, and that was about I know our own Ryan Gilbert put out a tweet. It was like, this is the worst half of football for K-State since when? And a lot of people said Iowa State in 2023, which, I agree with that. But, I mean, they just came out flat. They came out, they didn't execute. That was the biggest thing. It was like, you go into the locker room at halftime, and you're not making physical mistakes on defense. To me, that was the concerning part. It's week 2. You have a veteran secondary. And I guess just transitions to where we're going to start there. But Chris Klieman literally said on the broadcast, he's never been around a team that's made that many mental mistakes on just busted coverages. That's how Tulane was able to get those big plays. And credit Tulane and Darian Mensah, because he made those throws. He put the ball on the money. He was pretty good. Now, did he show that he was a freshman quarterback towards the end of the game? He definitely did. But he was good because K-State was allowing him to be good. And I think that was the most concerning part of the entire game, was those mental mistakes that should not be happening with a veteran secondary. And it's week 2. This is not week 1. It's week 2. That to me was probably the most concerning aspect of this game.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically running basic crossing routes, and Kansas State was in man coverage and just letting guys go. And I'm like, if you're in man coverage, how are you just letting a guy run across the field by? And it happened several times. It wasn't just one time that this, okay, you know what? Mental lapse, it is what it is. Several times you're in man coverage, and it was almost like K-State was like, you know what? I don't want to run across the field. I just don't want to run across the field. I know we're in man coverage. Somebody else will be there to pick them up. Well, guess what? Nobody was there. It was bad. The secondary looked bad. It almost looked like K-State was uninterested.
Yeah.
Or it looked like they thought, you know what? We're going to come out here. We're going to win this game. But I will say this. It looked like they're in basic stuff, and they just it almost looked like the kids just weren't interested and motivated to play the game because they were doing basic stuff. That's kind of what it looked like to me, Cole. It's like, man, are we going to run any of the stuff that we've been practicing since spring ball doing? And they didn't do a whole lot of that, if any of that. And here we are, and it didn't look good. I don't know. We got a little glimpse of it last week. Tennessee Martin just didn't complete the passes. Well, Tulane completed the passes, and that's what it looked like. It just, mental lapses everywhere in the secondary. The pass rush, it ended up getting there near the end of the game. But before that, and before we started blitzing a ton, we couldn't get to the quarterback at all. And that's a problem. As much as we talked about it last week, I mentioned, hey, maybe it was because we weren't going against very good tackles. Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how good the tackles were that Tulane had, but they were enough to stop us.
Yeah.
And that's troubling moving forward.
Well, I think, on the flip side of that, Big B, is that Kansas State did a really good job defending the run, minus what did they have? Probably one explosive run that Tulane had in the first half. I was pretty encouraged with the front seven's ability to stop the run. Now, granted, you did have Mekhi Hughes go for 140 yards rushing. That was on almost 30 carries. And so that's not exactly ideal. But when a team puts up that many yards of offense, the numbers aren't always going to be pretty. And so, I think most of the damage was done in the first half. And let's just be honest with ourselves. This was a tale of two halves. I mean, if K-State comes out like they played in the second half, we're not even having this conversation. Right. We're having the conversation of Kansas State wins by 2 or 3 scores. They get to a freshman quarterback and all is well and dandy. It really felt like, you know what? It felt like somebody kicked their dog, for a better lack of a term. Somebody kicked their dog, they got sad, and they played the first half, and it just wasn't good. Second half, completely different game. An interesting stat that they put on the broadcast, Brien, is that Chris Kleiman was 5-16 when trailing at halftime. That to me is crazy, because it feels like, K-State usually has a chance. It's usually close games. Like if K-State loses, they're never getting blown out. Well, instead of being 5-17, they rally the troops, and now they're 6-16.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. If there's any, silver lining, is that K-State played good in the third quarter. That's what I will say. They played good in the third quarter. I'm not going to say they played great in the fourth quarter. They made some plays to win, but Tulane was moving the football in between the 20s. I mean, that's where they made their hay. And then K-State bowed up, caused a couple of penalties, obviously caused a turnover, a strip sack with the scoop and score for a touchdown. So they played good in the second half in general, but the third quarter is really where they made their hay, and they stopped all the momentum that Tulane even had. And we were able to make enough plays to catch up, which is the sign of a good team. But having said all of that, it just, I don't know. Look, it's just got to be better. There's a whole bunch that we can say, and we don't need to sit here and just bash everybody, but I think we got to tell the truth. It just has to be better. It didn't look good. Once again, I'll say this: the offensive play calling, the conservative play calling, almost cost us. We can't continue to do that. I mean, look, there's people that were arguing on social media talking about, 3rd and 9. Oh, the run was good. It was there if it was blocked. 3rd and 13. Oh, if it was blocked, it's a good play. And I'm like, hold on. There are no running plays that are designed to get 9 yards. There are no running plays that are designed to get 13 yards. None of those plays exist. But there are passing plays that exist. If you trust your quarterback, just let him throw the football, man. I mean, if he's supposed to be getting these reps and he's as good as what we think he is, then let him throw the football. And I understand the argument that the pass pro, that we couldn't pass protect in the first half. But if you don't think that we can pass protect, you think we're going to be able to run block to get 9 yards? I mean, come on. Something's got to give.
Yeah, and I honestly was in favor, and you're referring to that last drive where obviously K-State had forced a punt. There's 4.5 minutes left. You're not.
That was even worse.
Right. Well, yeah, for sure. I mean, in that particular series, I mean, K-State is not in position to just run out the clock there. Like the odds of that happening, you have to get probably 3 or 4 first downs and use up, 3 downs per, chain link for that to happen. So the odds of that are pretty slim. I was really surprised that they didn't do that. I mean, you have to try and even throw a swing route. I mean, to me, the swing routes in this game, honestly, it was a story for me the entire game, because you go back to that third quarter, 4th and 1, and Avery Johnson turns to his right. I'm thinking, oh my God, here comes another swing route. And DJ just keeps going. I think the Tulane defender probably thought, hey, he's been running a swing route all game. Here it comes again. and DJ just turns the corner and ends up catching the touchdown. So I
Right.
do want to give some credit to the coaches there, because I'm sure that was on the mind. If that was the number one read, what a gutsy play call to go for the end zone on 4th and 1. We've seen them do that before. Reminded me of a little bit of Will Howard against Oklahoma State, and I believe it was 22 when Cade Warner caught a touchdown on 4th and 1. But man, that was just, it was just it feels like they're so close to just letting Avery play, but they're not ready yet. And I struggle with that, Brien. I really struggle with that, because, you have a kid who is electric when he gets out of the pocket. Did he miss a few passes? Yes, he did. But I challenge people to go back and look at, Will Howard. Go back and look at Skylar Thompson. Go back and look at some of these other great K-State quarterbacks. Their second or third game starting, they miss throws too. And that's going to happen. Obviously, if he connects with Sterling Lockett at the end of the first half, maybe the game
different game. That's
different.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that. But he also made some really good play. I mean, that throw to Will Swanson in the back of the end zone where he's running to his left and throwing back to his right, that's an elite level play. Yep. And so I say all of that to say, please, after the film, when you guys get home, yes, I'm saying you guys, because I'm whoever K-State staffer is watching this on the plane ride home, go into Connor Riley's office, go into Matt Wells and say, hey guys, let's just watch some film and let's just let Avery play, because man, that's just what they need right now.
Well, here's the thing is they're holding back, obviously. I mean, you can see it in the play calling. It's way too conservative for them not to be holding back. Or on the flip side of that, Cole, if they're not holding back and this is how it's going to be, we're in trouble. Yes. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. So I think they're holding back. I understand. Again, it almost cost them. But, to the point of Avery missing throws, yeah, he did. But you know what? Lamar Jackson missed some throws the other night that could have helped win them the football game against the Chiefs. And that guy's a 2-time MVP in the National Football League. So missing throws is going to happen. That's just the nature of the beast. Nobody's perfect. But you also have to give them more opportunities. And that's where the difference comes in. It's not enough opportunities are out there for Avery to make those throws. Now, I think that will happen against Arizona, because if I think our defense obviously is going to play better. Again, I know we saw a lot of blitzes, but I don't think K-State's going to be doing a whole lot of that. They'll do some of that, but they're going to play more coverage type stuff against Arizona. So, and hopefully we can get home with our pass rush. So things will look a little bit different when we play Arizona. But as of now, if it is what it is, the defense has to play better. They got to be better, but I don't know. We'll see some different stuff, but people are going to be upset about Avery not getting the opportunities. I'm upset about Avery not getting the opportunities, but I think this coming up week, if that doesn't happen, I'll just say it like it is. K-State's going to lose.
Yeah.
And I don't think the coaching staff is in the business of losing football games. I just don't believe they're in that business. No. So I think things are going to look a lot different.
Okay, I'm going to put our first comment up there. And I always, how like in Big B, I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but as a teacher, you always hate to give attention to kids who are acting out in class. I'm not saying this commenter, I'm not comparing him to a student acting out, but I have to put this up there because this is an interesting take from Tom here. He says, bailed out by the Zebras or this game goes to OT. I understand Tom's point. I get it. But I would also say that was offensive pass interference. If that's what you're referring to, Tom, that's fine. That was offensive pass interference by the book. And I was a little frustrated by Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick just perpetuating that, that was an interesting call. I don't know. If you go look in the rules, that is offensive pass interference. He did not let the defender get by him. He was blocking him in the end zone. It's offensive pass interference, period.
I mean, it was. But here's the thing. If that call goes against Kansas State, we're screaming bloody murder. So I understand that it was 100% pass interference. But if the thing about it is they never call it. That's the whole thing, is they never call it. And
they were doing it the whole game.
Pass interference.
They were doing it the whole game,
too. If the call goes against us, we are absolutely screaming. And we should. But if you go by the letter of the law, and maybe they finally start calling this, maybe it's something that in the offseason, they said, hey, we got to start calling these offensive pass interference, especially pick plays on the goal line. I didn't think the pick play when they threw it to the big tight end in the fourth quarter, I didn't think that was a pick play at all. I know some people were calling it. I'm like, nah, that was just a good play, and we didn't try to make a play on the ball, which I thought was incredible. I'm sure you'll get to that. But yeah, at the end of the game, it was offensive pass interference. There is no doubt about it. However, I mean, they never call it. So, but I'll take it. A win is a win. I literally, you know me, Cole. I don't care. We won the football game. I don't care if we have to cheat, if the refs give us every single game this season. If that means we win them all, then we win them all. I don't care.
You know what? As a Chiefs fan, and for those of you who are non-Chiefs fans, Big B, maybe you're one of these people, but who say that the refs always give the Chiefs the call. I guess I'm just used to it by now. What can I say? So this was interesting. People are talking about in the comments, talking about Dylan and Avery, or excuse me, Dylan and DJ.
Yeah.
And so I want to get your take on that. I'm going to put this comment up from Chad. He says, DJ is slow to get through the line. The passing game lacked motivation, and Avery has clearly been told to stick with the play not improvise. I don't know about all. I don't know about the second part. I don't know about the first part.
No.
But, man, DJ Giddens had 140 rushing yards today.
Yeah,
Big
yeah. There's no DJ slow getting to the hole. That's not true. There may have been some times when there wasn't anything there that he's trying to find a place to go, but he's not slow getting into the lane. DJ Giddens is an NFL running back, people, or anybody that doesn't think that or doubt that. He is an NFL running back. The stuff that he does, I'm not saying he's got breakaway speed, but he's got the size, vision, he catches the ball out of the backfield. Kansas State has an NFL running back in their locker room. Now, does Dylan Edwards need to get the ball more? Yeah. Are they holding stuff back? Probably. Do things happen when he's on the field? Yeah. I think we're going to see a whole lot of them on the field together, but we haven't seen it really yet, and I think they're just holding all that stuff back. But, yeah, Dylan Edwards got to get – in this game, he was doing stuff. You got to get him the football more.
Yeah.
You just have to. And I don't care where it is, the slot, the backfield, however you want to get – you have to get the ball in his hands at least 12 to 15 times a game. You just have to do that, Cole.
Yeah, I agree. Dylan ended up with 4 carries for 54 yards. DJ 19 for 114. So as a team, Kansas State 33 rushes, 215 yards. That's 6.5 yards per carry on the ground. And so I agree that the offensive line probably has a fair share of blame in the first half, but at the end of the day, when they needed to run the ball, when the game was in question, right? When the game was in question, when they were trailing and they needed the offensive line, or else the game could have gotten very ugly very quickly.
Right.
They leaned on DJ. They leaned on that offensive line. And I think that can be something that when this team goes back and they look at the film and they see, hey, this is where we messed up. This is where we did good. Let's build on what we did good and maybe amend what we did bad. I think that this offensive line can get better, because anytime you have Avery, DJ, and Dylan in the same backfield, it's really hard not to get a lot of rushing yards.
Yeah. The thing about it is people are going to look at the offensive line at the end of the game. And let me scratch that. For large stretches of this football game, the offensive line was pathetic. They weren't bad. They were pathetic. Yeah. But when they needed to be good, they were good. Now, I know people are going to confuse that and say, well, come on, Big B. What about at the end of the game when they're trying to run the football? I don't care who you are. You're not running the ball against a 9-man box. You're just not doing that. Yeah. And that's what Tulane was showing. Yeah. And that's what you were talking about at the very beginning, Cole. Throw the football. Back them up. You know you're going to get one-on-one coverage outside. Just throw some quick slants. That's all you got to do. That's pitch and catch stuff that you should be able to do no matter what's going on, and complete those passes. That's all you have to do, and back them up, get you a first down, and then you can run out the clock. But K-State didn't attempt to do that, and they tried to run against 9-man boxes, being stubborn. Look, Tulane is not just some pushover football team, as we saw. They're just not. But even if they weren't, K-State didn't run the ball against Tennessee Martin against a 9-man box. Nobody's doing that. So again, I'm not trying to bail the offensive line out, because there's plenty of blame to go around. It was not a great day. But again, when they needed to get back into the game by running the football, they were able to do that. They were able to do that. So you have to commend them. Look, they struggled, but they pulled it together, and when they needed to get it done, they did.
Yep, I agree. And I see some people in the comments talking about the offensive line and the pass protection. I I understand where that was coming from. It felt like, Easton Kilty, I had to go back and rewatch, but just from, first view, Easton Kilty might have had not as good of a day as he would have hoped for at the left tackle spot. They did rotate in some offensive linemen quite a bit, but it's still a work in progress. And at the end of the day, this same exact thing, and Big B, this just reminded me so much of the Missouri game last year. It was so similar in terms of K-State was a favorite, maybe not by as much. I'd have to go back and look, but I know K-State was a favorite. Now that I think about it, they might have been a favorite by even more, because Missouri had that tough week 1 game against Middle Tennessee. And K-State's offensive line got abused in that game. Their secondary got abused in that game. I mean, you go back and watch that game compared to this one, I think you're going to find a lot of comparisons. The only difference is, and I know we've been sitting here complaining, kind of. I don't know what we consider our conversations right now.
Just being honest.
Yeah, I agree. But when they needed to be good, Brien, when they needed to be good, when they had to make a play, they made a play.
Yes.
I mean, they made a play. And so we can sit here until we're blue in the face. And you and I are both football guys. And so naturally, football guys look for the things that go wrong. I mean, that's just what we do. We just look for the things that go wrong because every play should have been a 5-yard loss and every play should have been a touchdown. That's just how it works. But when they needed to make a play, VJ Payne, interception at the end of the game. Austin Romaine, a beautiful strip sack. Jack Fabris, Johnny on the spot for a touchdown. I mean, when they needed to make a play, the defense really stepped up.
They did. And that's the thing. The defense got beat on all game long. But like I said, when they played well in the third quarter, that allowed K-State to catch up. And even a little bit into the fourth quarter, it allowed K-State to catch up, And so when it was time to do some stuff, they were able to do some stuff. That's pride. I know Chris Kleiman said at the end of the game, the culture won the football game. And maybe he's right about that. The culture won the football game. I'm not going to disagree. The one thing that I will agree on is it's got to be better.
Yeah.
What we see has got to be better. And fans are starting to get, and I'm a fan. You're a fan. So when I say fans, I'm not trying to separate myself from being a fan. Just because I played at K-State doesn't mean I'm still not a fan. I'm not a coach. I'm a fan. So us fans are starting to catch on and say, we got to stop holding stuff back because, again, it almost cost us. It's time to unleash whatever we're going to do. And I think fans, Cole, understand also is, and I know I mentioned this earlier, if we're not holding stuff back, and this is what it's really going to look like as far as play calling, offense and defensive wise, we're in trouble because we're not doing enough, but I just have way more faith in the staff that, we got through this game. I do think they opened up a little bit more than what they did last week. And in stretches today, when we needed to get back, you saw some stuff, some play calls that you're like, you know what? This isn't vanilla. We needed this to make a play here. The DJ Giddens touchdown, for instance. We needed these things to make a play. But I just think next week I would relax people, just relax, because next week I think the entire playbook is open. The entire playbook will be open next week, and it will have to be to win that game.
Next week, the fact that K-State won this game, first of all, is great. But next week is literally, you know what? I'm not going to say who cares if you lose, but you're playing with house money. And you're playing with house money because that is a conference game against a team who has a chance, if, like we all think, to be in the conference championship game, to be in the college football playoff discussion at the end of the year in Arizona. You're going in there with house money because if you win that game, guess what? That is a great resume builder for you. That's great. You're going to be 3-0, probably close to being top 10 in the country at that point. But if you lose that game, guess what? You won your game at Tulane. You're 2-1, and it doesn't even count towards your conference record. And so that's the great part about this expanded playoff is that if you can win 2 of your 3 non-conference games, you're still in control of your season. And I know people are like, oh, I'm going to calm down on the rhetoric for the college football playoff. But you know what? It's the early part of the year, man. I'm not ready to say this team can do whatever this team wants to do. I I mean, is there holes? Yes. But have we seen those holes be plugged up before? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I was actually really encouraged with the outcome of the game and them finding a way to win, because it could have been very easy just to lay over and take it and die. We've seen that happen before. But I think K-State, they simply said, we're not going to lose. We're not
No,
going to lose. And
no.
and they came back, and that's all that matters.
Well, and here's the thing, and maybe people don't want to admit this. Tulane had more athletes on the field than K-State did.
And we knew
They
that
just
coming
did.
in. I mean, we knew
Yeah,
that coming in. You look at their
that's what I'm
receivers.
saying. They had more
Yeah.
athletes than what K-State had. So
Mhm.
from an athletic standpoint, they had more athletes. They were going to be more athletic than we were, and that showed, on the field. However, we thought we were going to have the advantage, Cole, when it came to physicality, that we just be able to do what we wanted, and that wasn't necessarily the case. But like you said, we won, and I think everybody being so upset after a win, number one, I think is a good thing,
Yeah.
because fans care
Yeah.
and fans understand how good we can be after a win. That, man, we didn't play good, but you know what? We didn't play good, but we played good in a win.
Yep.
We didn't lose the football game. There's been times where K-State doesn't play with it. Heck, you just go back to last year, Missouri. That's a game K-State should have won, and everybody knows it, that
Yep.
we should have beat Missouri. And Missouri was a really good football team. They got a ton of pros on that football team, and K-State literally should have won the game, and we didn't. We gave the game away.
Yep.
Well, today we didn't do that. So now, granted, I'm not sure that Tulane is as good as Missouri, but we don't know that this K-State team is as good as the one last year either. So we don't know any of that yet. But all I'm saying is I'm happy that this happened in a win.
Yep.
That we can talk about this, be upset, talk about some of the things that need to get better, but we still won the football game.
It's amazing. It's so much easier to stomach after a win, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
It's so much easier to stomach after a win. And for Tulane, it does not get any easier for them. John Summerall, I think he's going to do a great job with them. That's a team that, truthfully, probably is a top 25 team. I mean, there is legitimate talent on that team. Well, it doesn't get any easier for them, because next Saturday they have to go to Norman and play Oklahoma. That is a rough 3-game stretch. You get Southeast Louisiana, a nice cupcake to make you feel good. Then you get a top 25 team coming into your place in K-State. Then you got to go on the road to Norman. That's not easy for them. But that's going to be a team that I think at the end of the year we're looking at as probably an AAC champion, because I was really, really impressed with Darian Mensah. And I mean, God, Mario Williams, that guy, he's going to be playing on Sundays. I mean, he is legit. And that's a great test. Next week, K-State, they're going to have to go up against Noah Fafita, and McMillan, the receiver for Arizona, is a stud. It's a great test. But again, it's so much easier to learn from a win than it is a loss. I have some people on here wanting to talk about the receivers.
Sure.
And I want to get into that, Big B, because I thought it was interesting. Lewis Riddick, again, one of my favorite announcers, pointed out when K-State was driving, I believe it was before the Dylan Edwards touchdown, that Trey Spivey had come into the game, and they said, hey, here's a big 6'5" receiver. Well, last year, K-State didn't rotate receivers at all. And I actually thought there was a decent amount of rotations. But I will tell you, there was one guy who stood out to me that I said, I am really excited about what he can do, and that was Keegan Johnson, because that guy was extremely dependable today.
Yeah. Well, but it also seems like while he was dependable, where was Jace Brown?
Yeah.
It's almost like, okay, we let one guy get off, and then the other guy completely disappears. But that can't be. It just you can't have that. It's one thing if you have a receiver like McMillan, that Arizona does. K-State, I'm not saying K-State receivers are bad, because they're not. But we don't have somebody like that. I mean, that guy is potentially a top 20 draft pick,
Yeah.
But having said all that, we've got the guys. We just have to use them. We have to use them all. It can't just be we're going to use one guy and, Keegan Johnson does his thing. Jace Brown is literally invisible, and nobody else is doing anything. It can't be that. Part of that, I think, we're going to start seeing as the playbook opens up. We'll see more because the route trees still are very minimal. If people are paying attention out there, the route trees that K-State are running are not very complex at this point. And I think they're doing that on purpose.
Yep.
We've talked about it. I don't think we need to keep harping the point about opening up the playbook. That'll happen next week. But that's probably part of it, because going into the season, it's one of those things that K-State talked about what they were going to do. Hey, we've got some weapons out here. We need to use them. Avery's got a cannon. He can throw the football. He can get outside the pocket and throw the ball on the run. We can do a lot of different things. Well, at some point, we got to see it. We haven't seen like any bootlegs or anything like that. Yeah. I think all of that happens next week. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it needs to, because as somebody points out correctly in the comments, it could be not a fun night in Manhattan if that is what K-State rolls out there with. This is an interesting comment here from Charles. He says, I think Dylan Edwards should be on the field with DJ all the time. That boy is good. Have a double running duel on the field. He needs to play more. I agree. I mean, we kind of touched on Dylan a little bit, but 5 touches. I mean, I almost wonder if there was something we don't know about in the first half, because I think I counted 2 plays that he was into the game. Joe Jackson got into the game in a situation where Dylan, I would have thought, would have been perfect. Caught a touchdown. Eventually, it was called back.
Right.
By the way, that illegal lineman downfield.
That was terrible.
That was a bad
horrible
call. That was probably the worst call of the game, including the offensive pass interference.
Yeah, that was a bad call.
That was the worst call of the game. And, being the former offensive lineman, he was not even trying to go down the field. He got bumped off and was 2 yards down the field, and they threw a flag. That was horrible. But, yeah, I mean, Dylan, this kid is special, man. Like, he is fast. He explodes through the hole. There was a play where I thought he was going to get tackled for maybe a 1 or 2 yard loss, and he explodes, kind of hides behind his offensive lineman, gets 10 yards. He is a weapon, and they are going to need to use him more.
Yeah, they got to use him, DJ in the backfield like we talked about, H. Brown, Keegan John. They got to use everybody. That's the sign of a really good offense, is when you can spread it around. If you have all these weapons, it doesn't matter if you don't use them. Mm-hmm. It's like the guy that has 10 cars, and he's got all these great cars, but he only drives one of them. Well, That's great that you have all of these, but if you're only driving one, nobody cares. So, we've got to be able to do that, be able to move the ball around. Again, if nothing else, it just causes stress on a defense, because they literally don't know where the ball's going. Yep. And you have all these guys that are capable of making plays. Mm-hmm. That's the point. Get after these people with what you have. Spread people out more, which I think they'll do a lot more of that too, Cole, next week, is spreading teams out from sideline to sideline. Yep. Lining up, coming out in like not 13, but 12 personnel or 11 personnel, spreading teams out, motion to something else. I think we're going to see a lot of different stuff, because if we're just being honest, we just kind of come out and we lined up, and whatever the play we're going to run, we run it. There's been no formation. There's been switching from side to side formations. None of that. Yep. So I think a lot of that is going to change, with personnel packages, motion. I think we're going to see a lot more stuff next week.
I was a little surprised. There was a point in the game, I think K-State was driving. It might have been in the first half, getting ready to go score a touchdown, 3rd and 1, and here comes 3 tight ends onto the field. And I think at the time it was like, all right, they're going to try and jam it down Tulane's throat. But literally, like we've talked about, here comes 8 defenders into the box, because they know you have 1 receiver and 3 tight ends. Okay, if that guy beats us in a one-on-one fade route in the end zone, good job. But they knew that K-State was going to run the ball, and they stuff them and have to kick a field goal. I mean, it's just little things like that there are other plays in that formation to where all it takes is 1 check and a guy is going to be wide open. Yep. And so why we haven't seen that yet, I don't know, truthfully. But I would have to think that because of this short week, Brien, which is I think it plays a huge role in this, there has to be a little advanced scouting on Arizona.
Of course.
And so they have some stuff ready to roll to where when they practice, I mean, likely tomorrow, they'll probably speed up their walkthroughs and go through film tomorrow, practice on Monday. You would have to think that they are going to be full guns blazing, because if they don't prepare for Arizona, if they haven't prepared for Arizona, Arizona's prepared for you. And so you have to find a way to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I mean, look, this goes back to when I played football back with the dinosaurs. I mean, you even during two-a-days, which they don't have two-a-days anymore. Again, that's how long ago that I was at K-State, is that, that you practice for teams that you're going to play against.
Yeah.
Then I remember
Yeah.
practicing for Nebraska. We played Nebraska the second to last game of the year, and we're in two-a-days going through stuff to deal with them. That's just what you do. So there is 100% that they have been working on stuff, not just for Tulane. They've been double preparing for what Arizona does, even if it's just individual one-on-one stuff. They've been working all of that stuff in. So there's no doubt. And look, they're going to get back to practice tomorrow, which is crazy to think. That's probably, obviously, it's not going to be anything heavy.
Yeah.
They're going to get back to practice tomorrow and get after it for the short week. But I'm really looking forward to it, Cole.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game. And I think, the more that this game kind of sits and resonates with everybody as the emotional high wears off of the win, I think people will start to realize that good teams find ways to win ball games.
Correct.
And there are a lot of flaws in this game, 100%. But a good team wins this game, and K-State won this game.
They did.
K-State's season was completely changed when they lost to Missouri last year. They did not lose this game. And so will this be a springboard as we kind of wrap up the show, start to look forward to next week, Brien? Could this be a springboard for what we see in the future? Because this could do the opposite for Tulane. I mean, just an emotional, devastating loss.
Right.
Could we see them spiral? Or could this be an emotional win for K-State where they're able to take that momentum into the short week, come back ready to go, and start to reel off some wins?
Here's what I believe. I believe that the majority of that locker room, young guys might not think of it this way, but older guys have been around a little bit, guys that have played, they will look at this game as though they lost. And the preparation that goes into this week against Arizona will be an uptick because they know they didn't play well. They know they got away with one, but you mentioned it. Good teams find a way to win. And that's what K-State did. They found a way to win. But the guys that have been around for a little bit and understand what's going on, they're going to look at this and think, man, we didn't play good. We got away with one. We're playing an even better opponent this coming up week, and the focus will be different. And that's a good thing. You can always learn something in a loss. You can learn something in a win. But when you don't play well, whether you win or lose, that's when you can, because the tape is not going to lie. And they're going to see it, and they're going to see all the mistakes, and the coaches are going to point out every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that's going to change. And there were a lot of them. Let's not kid ourselves. There were a lot of mistakes out there, but they can be coached up. All that can be fixed. Again, the positive, they won the football game. We've seen it at K-State teams. They get into a game like this and they lose. Well, they did not lose. And that's what we have to keep sight of, is that a win is a win. And here's the thing for everybody out there, and you can answer in the comments. If K-State won every game and they looked like this, would you take it? Because me personally, I would absolutely take it. They could look like this for every single game. But if they win them all, I don't care. I literally don't care. That's the way I feel about it. So just keep that in mind, people. Keep that in mind. I know we're disappointed because we want them to play better, and we know they can play better. However, a win is a win.
As Richard says, yep. Yep. So I compare it to this, Brien. So this is a story, and I know in Texas you guys never get pulled over for speeding. Like that just never happens. That doesn't happen. But in Kansas, believe it or not, they actually pull people over for speeding. And so as I was heading back to Kansas City after the K-State game last Saturday, I knew I was speeding. I knew I was speeding. I didn't get a ticket. And so your analogy of getting away with one, that's, I think, how K-State is feeling. They were speeding, they got pulled over, and they got let off with a warning and still made it home on time.
I like it.
That's what happened with K-State. As we wrap up the show and look towards Arizona, I want to kind of look around the Big 12 before we finish, because it's been an interesting day so far. Obviously, you host the Big 12 Insiders. You're as plugged in on the Big 12 as anybody right now. But Iowa ahead of Iowa State right now, 10-0. Just an
That game's probably
outstanding,
over.
an outstanding game. Can Iowa State score 10 points is a question. I don't know.
Probably not. I
But-
think that game's over already, Cole.
But the highlight is Oklahoma State down big at home to
Yeah.
Arkansas, coming back and winning in 2 overtimes. That
Yeah.
to me, that's really good for the Big 12, because it could have been disaster for the Big 12 if Oklahoma State lost at home and then K-State lost to Tulane.
Yep.
That could have been horrible. But
yeah, it would have been horrible. Because look, we don't think that SMU is very good. Trust me, I live here in Dallas, and people in SMU, they think that they're the greatest football team that ever lived. Now they're in the ACC. I went to the game last night. First of all, it was a horrible football game.
Yeah, it sounds
but secondly, BYU just literally out physicaled. Now, BYU's not any good, don't get me wrong, but they out physicaled SMU in every level. So they smacked around that ACC team. So that was a good start to the Big 12. Oklahoma State had to fight back. I thought that game was over because Arkansas was doing wind sprints up and down the field. I didn't think they'd be able to slow them down, but they did and won. K-State came back, found a way to win. But again, we don't think Cincinnati's any good. They were up 27-3 late in the third quarter, and they lost 28-27.
Wow, I didn't see that. Wow, yeah.
So it's just brutal. I don't know if I don't think Iowa State can come back at 10-0. I think that game's over. I don't think Colorado is going to beat Nebraska.
No.
UK State fan, y'all know that I like Coach Prime. I'm a supporter, but it's got to look different. If you don't have an offensive defensive line, you're not winning football games. I don't care what. And he doesn't seem to care about that. And since you don't, you're not going to win. I don't want to hear it. That's the end of that. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Again, Big 12, this is a good weekend for the Big 12. We still got a couple left. What do we got? Mississippi State at Arizona State. We need to win that one. And then Texas Tech going to Washington State. Need to win that one.
Yep.
So it could end up being a decent weekend for the Big 12, Cole.
Well, K-State did their part down in New Orleans, 34-27. As we wrap up the Powercat postgame podcast, want to make sure to tell everybody, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We put out great stuff every week. Our podcast, we have basically a new one every single day. If you enjoyed the live, I think we're going to try and do these more often after Kansas State road games. Tim Fitzgerald and Ryan Gilbert are in New Orleans at Yulman Stadium providing post-game coverage. Head on over to the website, stay on the YouTube page. You'll get to see Chris Kleiman's post-game interview along with all of the other select players that they have for media availability. Lots of post-game coverage. So kick back, relax, head on over to GoPowercat.com and our YouTube channel. We'll have you covered. But Big B, any closing thoughts before we wrap up the show?
Just that, look, K-State won the game. We're all disappointed that they didn't play better. We're disappointed. Let's be honest. They played bad. They played bad, but they were able to find a way to win. So let's just be whatever we need to take out of it. Let's trust the coaches that they will get it fixed. Let's trust the coaches that they are going to let them know how bad they played, but also trust the coaches to say, even though you played this bad, you still found a way to win. Now think about what the score will look like if you play good, you know, and that's the trick to being a coach. You know, we can't just continuously beat them up. There's got to be some positives. Well, the positive is the most important one. They won the football game. So let's take that. Let's run with it. And let's hope for something better next week.
We didn't get to see Toby Osunsami's Bourbon Street celebration in New Orleans. But nonetheless, Kansas State walks out of New Orleans, Yulman Stadium against Tulane with a win. For Brien Hanley, I'm Cole Carmody. Thanks so much, everybody, for listening. This has been the Powercat Postgame Podcast. We'll see you next time.
This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production. Please support this show by subscribing to this YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.